Willie D Live.
You wanted to be a music producer more than you wanted to be a DJ, is that right?
Well,
At one point.
sort of. So I grew up, like my mom is musical, right? I think, like she could play, like I could play her a song and she could replay it on a piano, something I could never do. But in school, I played various instruments. I played the saxophone, the clarinet, a little bit of piano, and so forth. When I got to college, to UC Berkeley, I started.
You was in computer science?
I was in computer science.
Yeah.
But this was the first time. You got to understand that growing up in San Mateo in the suburbs, you're not around rappers at all. I never met a rapper until I went to Berkeley, and then I got to see like Souls of Mischief and Dell hanging out on the block on Telegraph Ave, and suddenly it was like this hip hop thing finally seemed real to me. I could actually talk to the people and shake hands with them and work with them, and there was like this whole underground hip hop scene, with various rappers. Like All the King's Horses and just a bunch of, people like the Grouch. And I'm forgetting some of the names during that time, but I was starting to get to know some of these people. And I started, I bought a drum machine. I bought a sampler. I started making beats. I bought an MPC 60. And I started doing demos and everything else with people. And that kind of continued for a number of years, but it didn't really go anywhere. I did like one demo, it didn't go anywhere, got a little bit of local radio play. It wasn't progressing, and as time went on, I just had to admit to myself that I'm just not as musically talented as a Dr. Dre or a DJ Premier.
And how difficult was it for you to reinvent yourself? Like, because oftentimes when we have a talent that we feel that we can really do, we can be pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and nothing's popping. So, and we just continue to push. Some of us, like right now, you got guys out there that are in their 50s and 60s still trying to put out their first rap album.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I mean, with me, I never wanted to be mid-level in anything I did, right? So I knew that if I kept staying with these hip hop beats and kept pushing, I might get a placement here and there. I might work with some artists and maybe get a little something. But I had to be honest with myself and say, listen, like, I'm listening to this DJ Premier beat and I can't do this. I don't have that ear for him to find that sample and put it together in the way you know what I'm saying? Like, I just had to be honest with myself. And I was like, I'm just wasting a lot of my time here. I'm in my bedroom working on these beats for hours and hours and hours, and it's not accomplishing anything. I play it for a few of my friends, and I work with these rappers who aren't progressing either. So I had to just admit to myself that this is not going anywhere. And around that time, I had a house party. I had gotten a new apartment in the East Bay in Emeryville, and I had this big house party, and a DJ came over, DJ Poison, and he left his turntables. He was going to pick them up the next day. So after everyone left, I just jumped on the turntables and I started messing around, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of easy for me, because I'd been working on beats for so long and I knew how song structure worked. I said, oh, okay, well, this actually I could do. I remember I made a mixtape the first day. I literally pressed record and in real time was able to beat match and everything else like that. And I said, okay, well, maybe this is it. Maybe this is going to be the thing that I could really excel at. And ultimately, that led to the Tupac Rap Phenomenon mixtape, which was mixtape of the year, and the Rock Phenomenon mixtape with Rock Raider, which was mashup of the year, and so forth. And that really, it was like those mixtapes, seeing them on MTV, seeing them in Double XL, like meeting other DJs that were like, oh, yo, I love that mixtape. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, oh, okay, now I'm actually part of hip hop doing this. Not doing beats, but doing mixtapes. I'm actually part of it. And that was like the greatest feeling ever at the time. to go from just being a fan of hip hop to being part of the creative process of it all. That was like the greatest feeling ever.
How do you feel when people call you a culture vulture?
The same as someone calling me a honky or a redneck or a cracker. It's just another version of that.
Yeah. I asked that question, obviously, because, I see it a lot. I'm a subscriber to your channel. I never stopped. I never cancel. I don't know why. I guess if I would have really been thinking about it, I would have canceled my subscription to your channel. But I never cancel. I don't cancel subscriptions, man.
Thank you.
But yeah, I asked that question because I've seen that in the comments a lot.
Yeah, all the time. I get called a culture vulture 1,000 times a day.
Yeah. What's the difference between you and somebody who you think or you consider a real culture vulture?
I think that's a real term. Because when you look at other prominent people who are called culture vultures, they really have an immense level of contribution. Leor Cohen, you can't downplay what he's done in hip hop. In fact, right now, and I interviewed him about this, I asked him the same question. I essentially asked him if he was the most powerful person on earth when it comes to music, because he's the head of YouTube Music Global, not just America. YouTube Music Global, he's the head of. Me and him just texted the other day. I mean, I respect what he did. Vlad TV used to be located in SRC Records, which is headed by Steve Rifkin, another person who's constantly being called a culture vulture. This is the guy that introduced the world to Wu-Tang, Big Pun, Exhibit, 3-6 Mafia, Akon, Melanie Fiona, Asher Roth.
But he got paid to do that, though. You know what I'm saying? Somebody could easily argue that, he wouldn't have done it. He didn't do it out the goodness of his heart. He did it because he was getting paid,
What other music executive hasn't gotten paid?
This
was his job.
Well, we're talking about people that have been...
Lil J got paid.
But we're talking about people that's being accused of being a culture vulture, though.
Well, of course you're going to get paid for putting out products that millions of people are enamored by. But you also got to see... people like to say he got paid off all these artists and, he took advantage of them and put them in bad deals and he made most of the money, blah, 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 blah. Most of these people on this that were on Loud Records or SRC Records all became rich, number one. And you also have to understand, and you don't really get to see this as an outsider, but when it comes to the music industry in general, not just SRC Records or not just Def Jam, any label, and I would say that Rap-A-Lot probably falls in the same category. Yes, you have your superstar artists that break out, but for every one of those, there's 9 artists that the label invests hundreds of thousands of dollars into that end up losing 100% of their money. Am I right?
I don't know if it's 9, but it's up there.
It's a big number.
Yeah.
It's most. It's the majority. Majority of the time when you take a new artist. I'm not talking about...
Well, the big labels do. The big labels lose a lot. Like the smaller labels can't afford to lose.
They can't afford it, but they still lose.
But they do.
They still lose.
Yeah, there are small labels that come out with 1-2 artists and then they go under. Like they never ever scratched the surface.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And you get to see how many artists Steve Rifkin had put money behind, hundreds of thousands of dollars, that went nowhere, that lost the entire amount of money, that never even sold one album. So, yeah, it's great that Wu-Tang blew up, but that wasn't a guarantee. It's great that Big Pun blew up, not a guarantee. There was a number of artists on that label, and I'm not going to say who because I don't want to embarrass these people, but the label put them on promo tour and paid for videos and paid for studio time and features and producers and this, that, and the third, only for them never to sell any albums.
You know what? I think that black people who call white people and other people culture vultures, the biggest knock that they have is when you profit from the culture, but that's all you do. You don't do anything outside of that. Like, for example, black folks are in this country are undoubtedly a marginalized group. We catch hell from this government every single day. And the white folks that I do know that are not, that people don't call culture vultures, they're actually out there walking with us. They fight with us. They when there's some bullshit going on, they call it. And those are the ones you never hear black folks calling them culture vultures, even if they are making money. See, because it's not just about money when you call somebody a culture vulture. It's bigger than just money. It's also about, like, walking with us, you know? And I think that's the big difference.
Listen, like a Bernie Sanders, for example, right? I don't think too many people call Bernie Sanders a culture vulture.
Not too many, but that motherfucker ain't down with reparations, so he can kiss her.
Okay, all right.
He can kiss her.
So who would be an example of a white guy who's not a culture vulture?
Paul Wall. Easy. Paul Wall is my brother. Easy. Like Paul Wall, Paul Wall gonna walk with us. You can call Paul Wall, and if there's something that's going on in the community, Paul gonna be there. Like, if he can be there, he will be there, and he is consistent. He don't do it for points. He is really passionate about it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Look, I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it. It's not like I walk with certain groups and not with others. I'm just not a person who engages in that a lot, period. So I'm not going to say, well, I refuse to do it, but I will walk with the Jewish community and so forth. I don't walk with the Jewish community either. You know what I'm saying?
Well, do you walk?
No, I'm not really a walker.
You don't walk at all.
I'm just not a walker. So I'm not going to sit there and lie about all the stuff I did that you may not know about that I'm just making up at the time.
Yeah.
No, that's just not my personality. This comes down to being who you are. Now, I did, Vlad TV did contribute to the NAACP during the whole George Floyd
That's big.
situation. People bashed me for that. They were saying, oh, you should have donated Black Lives Matter. Then you see how Black Lives Matter ultimately turned out, with the buying themselves houses and paying themselves huge fees and so forth. And I have, I publicly supported Kamala Harris. I voted for Kamala Harris. I publicly put out my support for her. I was anti-Trump. We pushed the George Floyd situation in interviews. I've let I think that as a whole, I think my voice and my stances and what I've talked to my guests about over the years have all consistently been pro-black. And you could go through my whole catalog and you could see that. Now, of course, people are going to pick out certain things and so forth and say, well, that's not true. But when you look at what I do as a whole, I think I've always been pro-black. I think that the track record speaks for itself.
Yeah. What does Vlad think about what's going on with this administration?
With Trump?
Yeah. What's going on with the, with people losing their jobs and, the way that Trump came in day one and started firing people at the FAA. And then the planes started going down, people losing their jobs.
Look, I'll be honest. I'm not necessarily against a lot of that, simply because government has always been a very inefficient system compared to private industry. Look at the post office. Would you say that's a well-run organization?
No, that's one of the worst organizations known to man.
Yeah, go to the DMV. Go to and look, and in certain things, like for example, the post office, you can compare it to a private institution like a FedEx or a UPS, and you'll see how much better those organizations run. So I think that, and plus in government, and when you look at as a whole, listen, my mom had a government job, right? I'm not just speaking out my ass. My mom worked for the Navy, right, as a civilian. She was an environmental engineer. I seen a video accused her of being a KGB spy and so forth. All the silliness. But no, she worked as an environmental engineer for the Navy. And the reason why she took that job is because of the stability. My dad was trying to build his own company. He had a home inspection company. His money would be going up and down depending on how many clients he had that month. She had the stable government job. People take these jobs because they know that they'll get to keep their job. It's hard to fire them, and they can get away with a lot of things that the private industry just won't tolerate. A lot of stuff that people do in the post office, they would have gotten fired if they were at UPS. And the shaking up of the system, I'm not against it. Now, are you going to hurt some people in the process? Are some good people going to lose their jobs and so forth? Absolutely. And are some of the targets unfortunate? You know, like the, you know, I talked to a woman the other day. She works at the Library of Congress, and she has this this huge catalog of interviews with prominent black leaders in all different types of genres. And she was telling me how a lot of the funding in these African-American oriented organizations is being cut and so forth. So I think that's very unfortunate because in the process, you're going to lose important cultural things. But as a whole, I feel like the shakeup needs to happen. So I'm not totally mad, you know, with the whole Doge thing. You know, like me and Vivek are supposed to do another interview. You know, Elon Musk is involved in the Doge thing as well. Like, I think that some of this stuff is really going to improve the overall government system after the dust settles. But in the process, it's going to be ugly. But in any sort of real change, you're going to have a lot of people hurt in the process. And a lot of people are going to be unhappy because they've been able to, you know, keep things well for themselves because of the status quo. But ultimately, life evolves. Things change.
Vlad, the dude named a government organization after a cryptocurrency.
Right.
Department of Government Efficiency.
Doge.
Not Doge. Not that don't sound suspicious. Just calling it that already, it sounds like they're playing in our face. Okay, so here's what happens. Trump and Elon said that they were going to cut $2 trillion from America's budget. They're going to get us back to where we need to be, right? In the same breath, Trump has spent over $30 million just in 4 months in office playing golf. How do you save us all this money when the president is spending $30 million playing golf? And how can you really, how can we take you seriously when you start talking about cutting cost, like trimming the fat, draining the swamp? How can we really take you seriously, bro? And so now, instead of getting the $2 trillion cut, now Elon has admitted that, well, don't look like we're going to be able to meet our goal of $2 trillion, but it seems like it's going to be more like 15% of that $2 trillion.
Okay, that's not bad.
That ain't going to happen. That's not going to happen. You know why? Because every year the budget gets higher. It don't get lower.
Right.
Spending increases. It does not decrease.
Well, inflation also happens, so you got to keep that in mind.
Yeah, and he should keep it in mind, too, because they're the ones running the organization. They should know more than anybody.
Right. I mean, look, like,
I don't believe in shaking things up just for the fact of shaking things up, man. You know, like, you got to have a plan. Shaking things up
doesn't always work, man.
You got to have a plan.
But at the end of the day, imagine if Trump cut income tax. You and I would be very happy about this.
Yeah, well, the thing is that whatever Trump does, he's doing it for him and his buddies. Look, I really, truly don't mind paying extra so that more people can have a better chance.
Right.
I don't. I really don't, and I've always expressed that.
Yeah, me too. I've always been a Democrat. I've always voted Democratic, from Bill Clinton to Obama. Did I vote for Obama? I just may not have been voting those years, but I supported Obama publicly. I voted for Kamala Harris. I voted for Biden. against Trump. I think people forgot who Trump really was because 4 years had passed. And people felt like, oh, something, maybe he's not so bad. And, he's kind of getting picked on, all these court cases, that ultimately he gets found guilty of, but nothing happens. And you got to put it on all the people that voted for him. I didn't vote for him.
Well, I think...
But he clearly won, right?
I think you put
by
it...
a large margin.
I think you put it on Elon Musk because I don't think he won. I think it was rigged.
I don't think it was rigged.